Coherence is defined by the presence of certain elements. It is a quality matter. Consistency is defined by the intensity and rhythm at which these elements are used. It is a quantity matter. Coherence and consistency form a cohesion. In order to create a cohesive story, write your ending first. Then create 4 to 12 characters by giving them a goal, a role, and a function each. Link them through stories. Link them through locations and through actions. Let their relationships evolve as the story unfolds. And finally, execute the ending you've preemptively written. Coherence is a quality matter. It is defined by the presence of certain elements. The character, mainly, as well as the environment. The story acts on both the characters and the environment, or the relationship established between the characters, as well as the relationships between the characters and the environment. In order to create a coherent story, you'll need a certain degree of diversity. The main character, namely, the most important one, should display a high level of diversity in order to create complementary relationships. Characters should be visibly complementary as well as behaviorally complementary. If your protagonist has a specific trait, the antagonist should have a complementary trait, as well as the main character's supports and other opponents. Characters also create relationships with the environment they're born in, they visit, and they choose to establish themselves in. They create 3 different levels of attachment, one for each of these kind of environments. Environments are mainly defined by their limits and by the point of interest which define them. Each environment has the ability to create a different kind of attachment for each kind of character, which is why, again, diversity is essential. The story is meant to escalate. The story is meant to change the characters and the environment, which is why, again, diversity is essential. Escalation comes from conflict, and conflicts are initiated by diversity. Consistency is a quantity matter. It is defined by the intensity and rhythm at which the essential elements of the story are used. Characters evolve as the world evolves. Characters are grounded in their environment, which forms the world. Environment, in matter of consistency, are dependent in their evolution on the criterion of surprise. When it comes to consistency, when it comes to rhythm and intensity, environment should deliver a certain degree of surprise. Whereas character to character relationships are defined by synergy. Synergy is not opposed to complementarity. It is essentially derived for complementarity. However, synergy is more dependent on the intensity and rhythm than from the presence of element. Whereas the complementarity factor is dependent on the presence of element. Character's evolution is directly linked to the world's evolution, as the world influences both environments and characters. In order to create any story, you need 5 words. The first word will become the title of the story. The other 4 are the transcription of your story themes. They segment your story in 4 distinct parts. The 4 themes irradiate through your whole story. Each of them will be transcribed by a character, an organization, an environment, and an item, or at least one of each of these elements. You can put multiple characters, multiple organizations, multiple environments, multiple items in the same theme basket in order to create diversity in the transcription of your theme. But one of each is enough. How do you make your story more cohesive? By starting with the end. Beginning with the story's end gives you a clear trajectory. It makes your story more readable for the public, for the characters, and for you. It allows you to manage the rhythm or the consistency factor and the content or the coherence factor more easily. Then define 4 phases. Each of these phases will be represented by a theme. Having 4 clear phases gives you more control over the elements of your story. Define the main events of each phase beforehand. You only need 1 main event per chapter. Once you've defined your 4 main events, make use of the 8 story types in order to generate stories more easily. If you're able to summarize your story in 1 phrase, it will become even more cohesive, even clearer. Define the main goal of your story in 1 phrase, and stick to this phrase. It's the surest way to ensure your story cohesiveness. You will always be able to tell when you stray from this 1 sentence.